Hey, what's going on, guys? So today we're talking about the best-selling cards under $5. What are the best-selling cards right now? And just right out the gate, let's just jump into it. Subscribe, like, all that jazz. But let's jump into it. DDD Divisor King Des Machinix. So while you have this card, while you have a card in your other pendulum, you can target one pendulum monster you control or in your graveyard. Special summon the card in your other pendulum zone. And if you do, place the target monster in your pendulum zone. That's nice. You can also Xyz summon this card by using a DDD monster you control as material. Right. Or just like in general. You can only control one once per chain when a monster card your opponent controls activates its effect. You can detach two materials or destroy a dark contract you control. If you do, attach that card to this material. Once per turn, your standby phase, you place this card in your pendulum zone. So it doesn't negate it. See, this is the thing. I don't want to offend anybody, right? Because I know that DDDs have a weirdly huge fan base. Like, there's some archetypes that, like, all archetypes have big fan bases, but some archetypes have more than others, for sure. And I think DDDs is one of those archetypes. I'm not trying to offend anybody. This is not a good card. Like, it's okay, for sure, but you have to detach two materials. I like the fact that you could destroy a dark contract instead, but you just attach the opponent's card as material. So, like, there are situations where that could come up, but there are a lot of situations where it just doesn't do anything. And that's kind of the biggest issue with DDDs. Like, a lot of big DDD monsters, they do things, but they don't do a lot of things. Right? So, I like it. It makes sense. That's the number one selling card under $5. Because that's kind of what DDDs is. DDDs are like they're not like super duper budget, but they're relatively budget, especially when compared to meta decks, and they're fun. There's just a very high skill cap and a high ceiling for what the deck is capable of, and there's a lot of room for error. So or like there's a lot of room to make errors, right? There's actually not a lot of room for errors, but there's a lot of room to make errors, and I think that's always a big hindrance on the deck, is that it's not usually, at least in my experience, it's not worth the effort. It's not. Like, just play like Phantom Knights and don't think. Like, I mean, I guess Phantom Knights isn't that much of a non-thinking deck. Like, play Sword Soul and don't think, or play Floanderies and don't think. Add the, play like normal summon. Add the one that adds a big guy. Normal summon. Add the big guy. Normal summon. Like, just play a deck like that. Play 3 skill drain and move on with your life. Like, DDDs, I get it. Big fan base. I was a part of it for a while. I like DDDs. I always have, but it's just the juice is not worth the squeeze, right? The next card I want to talk about, this card has actually been featured on this Market Watch before, and I don't know how much longer it will be. And I was really thinking about it when I was looking at this card once again after that, and I was like, wait, there really aren't a lot of good going second cards. Like, if you look at Exciton Knight. Exciton Knight's a pretty decent card, but it's like a niche scenario going second where this card ends up being really good. There's this one, Castel the Skyblaster Musketeer, and there's this one, which is, they're both pretty decent, but their issue with these cards, when in comparison to the card that brought us here, Exosister Michaelis. First off, it can't be destroyed by battle with special summon monster from the graveyard. That's not super duper relevant. The thing is, it's a quick effect. So this card is good going second, which a lot of those cards are, but it's also good going first. Right? Like, I can summon this card down, and I can get rid of, the Sword Soul level 8 monster. The name's escaping me right now. Or I can get rid of the, a Destiny Hero Phoenix Enforcer because it banishes, right? Which is super duper relevant. But it's not just that, right? It's also the fact that this card can also do that going first. And it's just interesting, right? Obviously, you need to run an Exosister to be able to activate this effect. But I don't know which one. I don't know. It's a good card. It's not a great card. It's a good card, right? And it's just something to keep in mind because there aren't a lot. And then it has this effect too, right? Which kind of reminds me of the Evil Swarm monster, right? So it's a really good generic rank 4 that's really, really good in its own archetype, right? And you don't actually see that too super duper often, but I like it, right? The next card I want to talk about is this the Dark Charmer, Gloomy. Something of note, all of these familiar possessed Link monsters, they all say the same thing, but it's just for different attributes, right? So like I said, this is the Starlight Rare, which is why it's so expensive. But you can target a fire monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon it to a zone this card points to. And then if it's destroyed by a battle, you can add a monster with 1500 or less defense from your hand, right? And then you also have the Earth one, does the exact same thing, right? So it's just something of note, and I think that's why we're seeing this card, by the time we get to it, right, from Battle of Chaos, start to gain in popularity. Because most people agree, what's the best deck in the room? Phantom Knights, right? I mean, Sword Soul's still doing its thing, but Sword Soul's got targets for this too. So that's the interesting thing. And it's not limited to any type of monster. It doesn't say it has to be in defense position, so it can be a Link monster. And if it was properly summoned, you could summon a Synchro monster, you could summon a Xyz monster, you could summon a lot of different dark monsters with this. And then on top of that, it's going to give you a search, right? It is possible, not super duper likely, but possible, that the new DDD support and the rise of this card's value are correlated, both from Battle of Chaos, because this is a good generic Link monster for DDDs, right? And it's a good generic Link monster in general. And I think that that's why we're seeing this card as one of the best-selling cards under $5. People like cheap cards that are forms of disruption, right? If I can, like, obviously there's always going to be that one person who's got to buy the the $170 OTS Ultimate Rare version of Solemn Strike. But if I can spend $3, $4, $5, if I can spend, let's see what we got. This guy right here, light played for 75 cents plus 78 cents shipping. If I can spend $2.25 plus 78 cents, if I can spend $3 to get a playset, let's do that, right? There's a lot of players that do that, and I think that's why we're seeing this card, the Dark Gloomy monster, rise in power, right? Rise in popularity. The next cards I want to talk about, I talked about this last week as well, so I don't want to dive too deep into this. But if a card says this on it anywhere, it's going to be good in value. I could easily see, it's the only version of this card, I could easily see this card not getting a reprint anytime soon, and it ends up being a $2 to $3 card, right? If we look like at this card, for example, this card's from Battle of Chaos. I'm trying to think of more of an older card, but even like Dictator of D, that was on that first page, one of the biggest selling cards under $5. And is it good? No. The cards are not good. Blue Eyes as an archetype isn't super duper fantastic, but it's just always going to be relevant, because that's the thing, like, yeah, it's not good. There's some people who don't care. Like, yes, there's some people who try to win every event that they ever do, every duel on Master Duel, on Dueling Book, at their locals, at a regional, at a YCS remote duel, yada yada yada. They always try to win. But there's also a lot of people that just like to have fun, as wild as that concept sounds, when playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And Blue Eyes is one of the funnest decks, and it's Kaiba's deck. So that's why we do always see Blue Eyes. And look, we got Magic Kuriban as well. What does Magic Kuriban say? What's the special word there? Dark Magician. It's almost the exact same thing. Dark Magician does play a little bit different, which is why I think it's not as popular as Blue Eyes, but I still think it is up there in popularity, right? The last card I want to talk about is going to be this card. Just, here's what I'm going to say. Okay, because Dual Overload isn't like the oldest set in the entire universe. I'm not even entirely sure how long ago it was that it came out. I don't know if that information's on TCG Player. So somebody let me know in the comments down below how long this set's been out. I do remember seeing this set on the shelves. And it has a lot of interestingly good cards in it. If we look at, I mean, Hauki, there's the obvious ones like Celine, Hauki, Dagda, Imperm, Anaconda, because they're never gonna hit this. So might as well Anaconda, Dynamiscus, Signet Mining, Pudding Cess. I like that card. I like Dolce in general as an archetype. That's a fun archetype for sure. It's just too expensive, I feel like, for what it is. This card's funny. Mystical Space Typhoon Swap Fog, that's a good reprint. This is actually an interestingly good hand trap. That's also searchable off of a lot of things, right? Because it's a ritual monster. But you get what I'm trying to get at, right? White Mare, that was a much needed reprint. Just be careful, because if we go back to the best selling cards under $5, what other cards do you see from Dual Overload, right? Battle of Chaos, Grand Creators, Dual Devastator, been talking about this card for a while. Blazing Vortex, shout out to Tri-Brigade Kit, El Dorado, Burst of Destiny, El Dorado, Spirit Charmer Structure Deck. I have a deck profile for that actually coming out very soon. The Tins, Grand Creators, Toon Chaos, nothing. Nothing from Dual Overload, at least best selling under $5. And I think the reason for that is because of all the new support in Battle of Chaos, obviously, right? And goes back to what I was saying about DDDs. It's one of the fan favorite archetypes that a lot of people like to play. And at the end of the day, is it tier 1? No. Is it tier 2? No. But on the right pilot that's put in all the work and all the hours and play tested against all those different things and has the right cards, it can be 2.5 tier 3, right? And it's been very close to meta for ever since it came out, ever since it got its structure deck like 5 years ago now at this point. And it's just always been missing that one card that just breaks the deck open, or maybe like 2 or 3 cards that just breaks the deck open. And if that happens, this card will be super high in value. So this is a card, it's just going to go on to you. If you think DDDs are going to get a bunch of great support and it's going to be a tier 0 deck confirmed or tier 1 deck, get multiple copies of this card. Get like 9 copies, because it's $2, right? It's $17.82 for 9 copies. And I'm serious when I say this. If this deck gets good support, this card will be worth $17.82. And if you think I'm crazy, go right back to Dual Overload. How much is the Halka Fibrax worth? $69. How much is... And here's the thing about Crystron Halka Fibrax. It has other versions. I mean, it's this one. But it's still, it still has other versions, right? Or we go to Celine. Celine is another one. It's a very good card. You need to run it in Endymion. You need to run it in Pendulums. That's why it's $33.49. This card, DDD Abyss King Gilgamesh, is only low in price because DDDs aren't that good. They're good, but not that good, right? So if they become that good, this could be a very good card, as well as a lot of other things. So let me know what you guys think. What are the best-selling cards under $5? Let me know in those comments down below. Make sure you guys click that like button to show your support for the channel. Subscribe for even more content. And most importantly of all, have a good day.